Hello. This is the second part of this story. If you haven't seen the first one, we recommend you watch it first. I took a few deep breaths trying to calm down. Then I decided to watch the tape again. Who knew what it had cost me? After watching it, I realized that this was not the first time they had met. This jerk was so confident in my studio. After they finished, he sat down in my chair without getting dressed. Natasha got my cognac and nestled in his lap. They sat naked and kissed while sipping my cognac. After they drank a bottle, they got dressed. Then Natasha brought another bottle of cognac and gave it to her lover. Apparently, she liked his efforts. The bastard fucked my wife, drank my cognac and took another bottle with him. Without leaving the studio, I dialed the phone of the technical support group of the security service. On the second ring, the other end of the line picked up. I closed the studio and went upstairs. I was really lucky my wife wasn't home. It gave me time to get my emotions together. My daughter told me my mother had gone to her cousin's house. It's hard to say what I would have done if I had met my still wife after watching a porn movie featuring her. I walked down the alley wet from the fall rain, passing my shadow from lantern to lantern. From somewhere in my stomach, a chill was rising through my veins to my head. I suddenly calmed down, knowing full well that I couldn't get back what I had. For 30 years, I had believed and loved this woman, and even in my nightmares, I had never imagined that she would overstep me so mercilessly. I read somewhere that 100% of women are willing to cheat on their husbands under certain circumstances. The only difference is in the ways and reasons for cheating. But mine wasn't like that. Alas, as it turned out, she was like all the others. For some reason, I thought that I was standing at a crossroads, and there are two options: to remain a cuckold who does not want to know anything, or to cover this couple and take revenge. I didn't hesitate and chose the second way. I returned home, and after about an hour, I called Natasha. I called for a long time, but number one picked up. I called Natasha's sister. There were long beeps, then I heard a sleepy voice. Hello? Zoya. Good evening, I said in a deliberately cheerful voice. Is Natasha there? Yes. She arrived about an hour ago. Why? Zoya's voice was calm. Put her on the phone, I said as calmly as possible. I can't get through to her. She won't answer the phone. Yura, she's in the bathroom now. She was helping me and she got all dirty. I'll tell her that you were looking for her. She'll call you back. Zoria's voice changed, became not so calm. Okay. I'll wait. I clicked off. She never called back. Natasha came home 3 hours later, cheerful and excited. I no longer doubted that she went on a date to her lover again. Well, she had chosen that way herself. 2 days later, I knew the full biography of the neighbor, his wife and daughter. I was also fully aware of their love affair, knowing exactly how many times they had met. Natasha had been cheating on me for the last 6 months. But what an actress. I didn't know anything. We never had any intimacy problems. She was always satisfied in bed, but I guess that's just what I thought. With his wife, neighbor lived more than 20 years and depended entirely on her father, who owned several car dealerships. He was younger than me by almost 10 years, and this in all likelihood was the decisive factor in pushing my wife into his arms. When Natasha was at work and my daughter was at university, I installed cameras in the bedroom, dining room, and hallway. 2 cameras recorded the entrance to the house and the front entrance. My next business trip was due in a week, so I just had to wait. The week dragged on slowly. Outwardly, our relationship with Natasha had not changed. She still kissed me affectionately when I left for work. True, after what I saw in her mouth, I vomited, but I tried to control myself, overcoming the nausea, barely restraining myself from wanting to tell her everything and throw her out of my house. By the way, I didn't tell her the house was in my father's name. When we started building it, I was still working for the police, and I had problems with the legal registration of the building. That's when my dad suggested that we register the land and the house in his name. Besides, he helped us with money and building materials anyway. I must say that unlike my father, Natasha's parents were not particularly enthusiastic about the house and didn't help us out with the money. A week later, I kissed my wife goodbye for the last time and left on a business trip. The week that passed seemed like an eternity to me. Of course, I didn't go on any business trip. I rented a hotel room, turned on my laptop, checked how the cameras worked and waited. As I suspected, a neighbor showed up on the horizon about an hour after I left. He was met by an excited Natasha, dressed in a see-through 90. They had fun flopping around in our marital bed for about 3 hours. Then they decided to go down to the studio. I guess they liked the cognac, but that's where they had a bummer. When I left, I locked the door and took the keys. God, that bastard was worried. When they parted, Natasha suggested we meet tomorrow and have a raucous night, since Julia, our daughter, was going to spend the night at a friend's house. Well, that, in principle, the evidence was enough. It remained to swap the bastards and throw them out of my house naked into the street. Sunday night, I went into the garage and pulled a piece of police rubber stick out of my car. At first, I was tempted to get a baseball bat, but I was afraid I'd kill the bastard and go to jail. But a rubber stick, just the thing. I also brought a sword or 16-gauge shotgun, which I had inadvertently found in the garage. Figuring 2 rounds would be enough for revenge. I turned on the laptop and made sure the erotic show was in full swing. There was a door to the house from the garage, and I used it. When I quietly went up to the second floor, I heard the sounds of lovemaking. It was lovemaking, not just sex. I could hear Natasha screaming her love to him in ecstasy. I turned off the camera in the bedroom and walked quietly up to the incompletely closed door. Contemplating real sex is much more vivid and emotional than on the screen. Lively colors, sighs, and moans, the rhythmic creaking of springs created a unique atmosphere of true intergender friendship inherent in partners who understand each other well. When I opened the door, I saw Natasha lying on her back and the alpha neighbor nestled between her legs. I took 2 quick steps and silently struck the male with a rubber stick in the face. The blow was good. The blood splattered on the sheets mixed with other liquid in the lava. Grunting, something fell to the floor with a rumble. There was an erotic pause. And then in the silence came the voice of my still wife. "You're oh God. What are you doing here?" "I'm here. You damn cheater, to throw you out on the street." But what's good for Mexican soap operas isn't good for the realities of modern life. Get up and get the fuck out of here. I, of course, said a more colorful word as appropriate as possible in this case as the address to which Natasha was to advance. But before you get out of here, I want to tell you that your lover is a piece of shit. He's got 2 other married lovers besides you, and you're just another whore to him. By the way, that's what he bragged about to his buddies when he was drinking beer. I tried to control myself and not show any aggression. I emailed the videos of him and you to your parents. Please, shut up. I don't care what you have to say. Not now, not later. So get up, take your shit. I nodded at the hissed lover and get out of here. The arrow-to-maniac neighbor seemed to come to his senses. He looked at his bloody hands and tried to get to his feet. "What have you done? I'm going to kill you. You bastard." He clenched his fists and came at me. "I'm going to smash you against the wall." I pointed the sword-off shotgun at him. "Stay where you are," but he didn't seem to take kindly to human words. I sighed and pulled the triggers. A doublet. A shot of finely chopped red and black pepper mixed with coarse salt landed in his groin. The roar of a wounded hippo was a pathetic squeak compared to the shriek that this macho man let out. My lover fell on his back and rolled his legs up and down, screaming loudly. Apparently, he didn't care about me anymore. My ego was triumphant. For the sake of such a spectacle, I could risk imprisonment. After a while, the macho man fell silent, just staring at me, frightened and kicking his legs in pain. She's taking you to the hospital now. I suppose you can figure out what to tell the doctors. Otherwise, I'll send a video report of your adventures to your wife and father-in-law. It's not hard to predict their reactions. Now both of you get out. Through the window, I saw Natasha supporting her lover and putting him in the backseat of her car. I don't know what they said at the hospital, but number one bothered me. Only a well-behaved policeman politely stopped me in the morning on the street and timidly inquired if I knew anything about the night attack on my wife and her companion. Natasha was taken from the hospital by her father. In the evening, he called me with a complaint why I had kicked his daughter out of the house. I asked affectionately if he had looked at his email lately. He hung up and never called me again. I guess he liked the video. Then the kids started calling. At first, my son, he spent a long time telling me to forgive my mother, considering the 30 years we'd been together. At the end of the conversation, he called me an asshole and hung up. Then Julia, for a long time, sat in the living room opposite me and with tears in her eyes, told me how much my mother loved me and you can't be so cruel to the person with whom you have made 2 children and lived so many years. At one point, I even had the impression that it was me who was messing around with the neighbor, not Natasha. Even my mother hinted to me in careful terms that it wouldn't be a bad idea to forgive Natasha. That anything can happen. A girl has lost her way. All women have crises. They never know what they are doing. I listened to my mother attentively and asked if she also had such crises. I wonder if Dad knows about it. Mom didn't answer and quickly hung up. We never talked about it again. The next day, my father came to visit me. Let's go play. I didn't know you played guitar. I grinned unhappily. There are a lot of things you didn't know. My father's words sounded ambiguous. We went down to the studio. I pulled out a bottle of my best whiskey and poured it into glasses. I've hated cognac ever since. Dad nodded understandingly. I picked up my old Strat and sat down on the stall. You had a chair here, didn't you? Asked Dad, sitting down to play the drums. I did, but it's gone. I put on my headphones and picked up the first chord. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our